My name is Sarah. I'm 30 years old. There was only an hour left, 60 minutes until I would officially become Michael's wife. I stood in front of the mirror in a small room at the Marriage Bureau in New York, trying to calm the trembling in my knees. The ivory lace dress fit perfectly, accentuating my graceful curves. I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself. My heart was racing, beating a tap dance in my chest. A little nervousness before the wedding is normal. I needed to believe in the best. And I did believe, or wanted to believe. There was a soft knock on the door. "May I come in?" Michael's voice sounded. "Yes, come in," I replied, trying to sound confident. Michael entered. He looked impeccable in his elegant suit. The dark blue color favorably accentuated his eyes. Like from a fairy tale, I thought. And for a moment all doubts receded. He approached me, gently took my hands, and looked into my eyes. "You're beautiful," he whispered, and I felt my cheeks flush. "Thank you," I mumbled shyly, lowering my gaze. Michael smiled and released my hands. "I have a small request for you," he said after a brief pause. "There's a small formality. We need to sign something." He pulled a folder from the inside pocket of his jacket and handed it to me. "What is this?" I asked curiously, looking at the folder. "Just a prenuptial agreement," Michael replied. "The lawyer insisted. It's just a formality, don't worry." I took the folder and opened it. On the first page, in large print, was written prenuptial agreement. I flipped through several pages, not delving into the legal terms. My attention was drawn to one specific clause, highlighted in bold. In the event of divorce, the apartment located at, followed by my address, becomes the property of Barbara Johnson, Michael's mother. I froze, as if doused with ice water. I read the clause again, hoping I had misunderstood. But no, it was all there in black and white. My apartment, which I had bought myself before the marriage, was to be transferred to his mother in case of divorce. I looked up at Michael. There wasn't a trace of embarrassment on his face. He looked at me calmly, even expectantly. "What does this mean?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Well, you understand," Michael replied casually. "It's just a formality. Mom wanted it this way. You don't mind, do you?" I felt everything inside me turn cold. Mom wanted it this way. These words echoed in my head. I had always noticed how Michael listened to his mother's opinion, but I never thought it would go this far. I had always attributed it to his respect for elders, to good family relations. Now it seemed ominous to me. "Are you serious?" I asked, feeling my throat go dry. "Do you really want me to sign this an hour before the wedding?" "What's the big deal?" Michael shrugged. "It's just a formality. We love each other. Why should we think about divorce?" There was a falseness in his voice that I hadn't noticed before or hadn't wanted to notice. I had always tried to see only the good in him, turned a blind eye to his faults. And now, with this prenuptial agreement in front of me, everything became crystal clear. He didn't love me. He loved my apartment. Or more precisely, the possibility of getting it. "You didn't even ask if I wanted this," I said, feeling tears starting to well up in my eyes. "You just presented me with a fait accompli." "But I know you love me and will do anything for me," Michael replied with a smug smile. "Besides, it's for Mom. She's very concerned about my future." I turned away from him so he wouldn't see my tears. I felt betrayed and deceived. All my dreams of a happy family life were crumbling in an instant. The man I was about to call my husband turned out to be a calculating and greedy person, ready to do anything for profit. Fragments of memories flashed through my mind. His compliments, his promises, his vows of eternal love. It was all a lie, just a beautiful wrapper hiding rot. I remembered how Barbara, his mother, had always looked down on me, how she criticized my clothes, my hairstyle, my manners. I had always attributed it to her difficult character, but now everything fell into place. Michael, observing my reaction, maintained an astonishing calm. It was as if he had expected this storm, prepared for it. "Sarah, why are you looking like that? It's just a formality," he said nonchalantly, coming closer and trying to put his arms around my shoulders. I recoiled. Michael shrugged, trying to give his face an expression of innocence. Gradually, I began to understand that he had always been a puppet in his mother's hands, obediently following all her instructions. And this marriage was probably not so much his decision as Barbara's. I gathered the remnants of my self-control, took a deep breath, and looked Michael straight in the eyes. A minute ago, my heart was breaking with pain and disappointment, but now, looking at his self-satisfied face, I felt a wave of cold fury rising inside me. Fury not at him, but at myself, for blindly believing in his love, for not seeing the obvious things. "You know, Michael," I said calmly, trying to keep my voice from shaking, "I have a surprise for you too." Michael frowned, his eyebrows furrowed. He clearly didn't expect this reaction from me. Apparently, he was counting on tears, hysteria, pleading, anything but calmness. "What kind of surprise?" he asked incredulously, and for the first time, notes of concern sounded in his voice. I took my phone out of my purse. The screen displayed the number of my lawyer, John Smith. I pressed the call button and put the phone to my ear, trying not to look at Michael. "John, hello?" I said in an even voice. "This is Sarah. Remember the prenuptial agreement we discussed?" "Yes, that one." "Could you send it to me by taxi right now?" "Yes, right now. It's very important. Thank you very much." I ended the call and looked at Michael. Now he looked genuinely worried. His face had turned ashen, and his hands were trembling slightly. "Sarah, what are you doing?" he mumbled, trying to maintain a semblance of calm. "Why do you need that contract now?" "Oh, Michael," I smiled sweetly. "You said it yourself. It's just a formality. I just want to protect myself too. What if I also have some caring mommy who wants to claim your property in case of divorce?" Michael flinched as if he'd been struck. He clearly didn't expect me to go on the offensive so easily. His eyes darted around. He was obviously trying to figure out how to wriggle out of this situation. "Sarah, what are you talking about?" He tried to soften his tone. "You know I love you. Mom she's worried about me. She wants everything to be good for me." "And you think I don't want everything to be good for me?" I challenged. "Or do you think I want to live in poverty after a divorce?" "No, of course not," Michael panicked. "It's just common practice. Everyone does it. It doesn't mean I don't trust you. It's just Mom wanted it that way." "I've already understood that," I finished for him. At that moment, a notification came to my phone that the taxi had arrived. I went outside and picked up the prenuptial agreement drafted by my lawyer. I returned to the marriage bureau and demonstratively started reading it, although I knew the contents of the document by heart. According to this contract, Michael completely renounced any claims to my property, both premarital and acquired during the marriage. Moreover, he was obligated to pay me alimony in an amount sufficient to maintain my usual standard of living. There were other clauses clearly aimed at protecting my interests. Michael's face grew longer as I read. He tried to grab my hand with the documents, but I deftly dodged. "Give it here!" he squealed, losing the last remnants of his composure. "Don't sign that. It's all nonsense." "Nonsense?" I echoed. "And your contract isn't nonsense? Or did you think I was so naive that I'd believe your fairy tale about Mom's care?" "Sarah, listen, I'll explain everything," Michael pleaded. "I just wanted Mom to be at ease. She's afraid you'll leave me with nothing." "And aren't you afraid that I'll leave you with nothing?" I asked ironically. Michael fell silent. He realized he had lost. His eyes reflected confusion and despair. "Sarah, please, don't," he begged. "I'll fix everything. I'll talk to Mom. We'll sort it all out." "It's too late, Michael," I replied wearily. "Too late. I thought I was marrying a man who loved and respected me, but it turns out I'm marrying a mama's boy who's ready to betray me for his mother's whim." I put my phone aside and looked at Michael. It was a pity it all turned out this way. I really loved him, or at least I thought I did. But now I saw a completely different person in front of me, greedy, cowardly, and dependent on his mother. "I won't sign this," I said firmly, "and I won't marry you either." Michael tried to say something, but I raised my hand, stopping him. "Don't," I said. "It's all decided. I'm leaving." I turned and headed for the door. Michael was silent, staring at the papers in his hand. He seemed unable to believe what was happening. He was used to me giving in, compromising, trying to avoid conflicts. But now a different woman stood before him, strong, independent, and ready to defend her interests. Suddenly, Barbara burst into the room. She looked worried, as if she had been eavesdropping at the door. Seeing the confused Michael and me with the contract in my hands, she understood everything without words. "What's going on here? Sarah, what have you done?" she rattled off. But I was no longer falling for these tricks. "Nothing special, Barbara," I calmly replied. "I've just changed my mind about marrying your son." Barbara's face contorted with anger. The false mask of benevolence fell away, revealing the true face of a greedy and calculating woman. I looked at her, and at that moment, I finally realized that this whole family saw me only as a convenient resource, an appendage to my apartment. They didn't love me, didn't respect me, but only wanted to use me for their selfish purposes. "I'm not losing anything, Barbara," I replied, trying to maintain calm. "On the contrary, I'm gaining freedom. Freedom from lies, hypocrisy, and manipulation." Barbara tried to grab my arm to force me to sign the prenuptial agreement. "You'll regret this!" she shouted. "You'll be begging us to take you back!" But I broke free and stepped back. I was no longer afraid of these people. I saw right through them and understood that they would stop at nothing to get what they wanted. "I don't think so," I replied, looking her straight in the eye. "I'd rather be alone than with you." I turned and headed for the exit. Michael tried to stop me, grabbing my arm. "Sarah, wait, let's talk," he pleaded. There was desperation in his voice, but I just shook my head. "We have nothing to talk about, Michael," I replied. "You've made your choice." I yanked my arm free and without looking back left the room. Barbara's shouts and Michael's confused excuses followed me, but I no longer paid attention to them. I was walking forward towards a new life, free from lies and betrayal. I imagined how Michael and Barbara were arguing now, blaming each other for what had happened. I imagined how they were trying to figure out how to get me back, how to make me sign the prenuptial agreement. But I knew they couldn't do anything. My lawyer would make sure they didn't take any action against me. I left the marriage bureau building and took a deep breath of fresh air. The sun was shining outside. Birds were singing. Life went on, and this life belonged to me. I could do whatever I wanted, go wherever I wanted, love whoever I wanted. I was free. A slight smile appeared on my lips. I took out my phone and dialed Emily's number, my best friend. "Hi," I said. "I have good news for you. The wedding is off." Emily's joyful squeal came through the receiver. "I knew it! I always knew that Michael was a slippery character," she shouted. "Sarah, you're awesome! I'm proud of you." "Thank you, Emily," I replied. "I'm proud of myself too." "So, what's next?" Emily asked. "What are you going to do?" "I don't know," I answered. "For now, I just want to breathe some fresh air and enjoy my freedom." "And then?" I thought for a moment. "And then, I want to start a new life, full of love and trust." "That's right," Emily supported me. "And I'll help you with that. Let's meet this evening, drink some champagne, and celebrate your liberation." "Great idea," I exclaimed. "Shall we meet at our favorite cafe?" "Of course. I'll be waiting for you there at 8. "Okay, see you then." I hung up the phone and smiled. I knew everything would be all right. I had survived betrayal, but I hadn't broken. I had become stronger and more confident in myself, and I was ready for a new life, full of opportunities and adventures. In the evening, Emily was already waiting for me at the cafe. When she saw me, she ran up and hugged me tightly. "So, tell me everything," Emily exclaimed when we sat down at the table. "How did it all go?" I told Emily in detail about what had happened at the marriage bureau. Emily listened without interrupting, only occasionally furrowing her brows and shaking her head. "What jerks!" Emily exclaimed when I finished my story. "I always said they weren't right for you." "I know," I smiled. "Thank you for always being there." "Oh, come on," Emily waved it off. "That's what friends are for." "Well, shall we toast to my liberation?" We clinked our champagne glasses and drank. I felt warmth spreading throughout my body. I was happy. I was free. And I knew that real life was waiting for me ahead. And somewhere out there, true love was surely waiting for me. Love that doesn't require contracts and guarantees, but simply exists. Love based on trust, respect, and sincere feelings. Love that will make me truly happy. Did you like the story? Write your opinion in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next interesting story. See you tomorrow.